morning, just about 9 minutes ahead of the top of the hour. On this Tuesday morning, I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone now, I welcome our Assistant Director of Public Works, Rob Steen. Rob, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for filling in for our DPW Director, Dan Santos. Going to talk a little bit about the road work today and talk about some state-funded projects. So can you kind of just frame this a little bit? And I know obviously we have some capital projects and some other projects, but these are projects that are coming in state-funded money, correct?
That's correct. So, may or may not have noticed, we had a wee bit of a winter this past winter.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And, many ramifications from that, amongst others, are that the roads took a significant beating. The state recognized this, and they distributed some monies to the different communities throughout the Commonwealth to help address principally potholes, but things that were basically as a result of the winter. And our share of that was approximately $300,000, which we've given to our Highway Maintenance Division. And they are using that in a couple different ways and doing projects throughout town. Now, these projects have to be done by July 1st, so they were a very fast implement, and they're currently going on now as we speak and should be done in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But they consist of sort of three different components. There's a milling and paving section, which is where a crew will go through and see an area where there's a bunch of potholes. You might see on the road these sort of boxes that got drawn onto the road, and they'll sort of mill out, which will sort of grind out the top 1.5 to 2 inches of material that are on the road there, and then replace it with new material for that top 1.5 to 2 inches. Another option that's going on at this time is there's what's called sort of a thermal repair. And we've done this for 2 years now. It's sort of a new technology to us, where you have something, it's probably analogous to a big iron.
Yeah.
And it gets laid over the road, heats up the area where there's damage in the road. You then go through and you scarify it, you put in some material, you roll it all out, and because you've heated up that whole area, it sort of makes a seamless patch. And we've tried that last year. It worked out pretty well. We're doing some more of that this year. And continuing to experiment with that technology.
That seems, if we can stay on this for a second, because I
Sure.
just, when I was looking at the list that you sent me, I thought, wow, infrared pavement treatment, that sounds very high-tech, very futuristic. And noticing some of the roads that are on the list, especially Bumps River Road, I would think that this is a technology you use for areas that have had frost heaves rather than those potholes or loss of pavement.
It has some limitations. We're using it right now principally around catch basins and manhole covers. The limitations are you basically have a heating iron, and you have the size of that thing. And you can do sort of sequencing patches, but ideally you're going to do something smaller than that. And there's studies out there. The Ohio Department of Transportation did a large study on it. There's a number of studies out there that look at it and sort of speak to its strengths and weaknesses. And I think everyone's still trying to find its sweet spot. But it definitely is effective of what it does when you do use it. I know that Tennessee, for instance, has pretty much limited it to sort of alligatoring of the road, and when you have that sort of alligator cracks the road, and you don't actually have the pothole itself that's where material is missing. Other communities have used it for potholes. As I said, we're using it around catch basins and manholes right now. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we push off to that into bigger pothole areas and start to really try to push the edge of the technology and see what it can do.
Interesting. Is it a quicker, more efficient way of repairing? About how long does the process take? I mean, I would guess that it probably varies on the size of the problem that you're trying to fix, but about how long start to finish does that kind of infrared treatment take?
Well, it's probably longer. I mean, if the fastest way to do a pothole is to back a truck up, throw a shovelful of stuff in it, roll the truck back and forth over a few times and move on. The problem is that it doesn't last long. That level of fix doesn't last long enough in my mind. Whereas the thermal takes longer to do initially, but those patches have shown to last a much longer period of time. And some of them sometimes last almost 10 years.
Wow.
That's not our experience with it because we haven't done it that long. That's just from the studies that I've read about it.
Interesting.
So its value is not in the fact that it's faster up front. Its value is in the fact that it's a more permanent fix in the sense that you don't go back to that same pothole year after year after year after year.
Great. And the last is the long line road striping, about $71,000 is going to be that. And talk to me a little bit about what that is and where that's going to be taking place.
So what that is if you look throughout town, you'll notice that there's the fog lines on the side of the road and the yellow lines in the middle of the road. Any year that that has as much plowing as we have done the past year, and frankly the past 2 years, it puts a real hurting on those long lines. It physically scrapes the paint off. And so what we're doing is, in town, any road that hasn't been replaced in the last 5 years has paint on it. Most of the roads that have been replaced in the last 5 years have called thermoplastic on it. So that's a different technology. But the roads that are painted, this should get almost all of those completely refurbished this spring and completely repainted this spring. Now, since it's paint, it will fade throughout the year, and then after next winter we'll have to do it again. And that's sort of the difference between thermoplastic and paint is really an annual thing. Thermoplastic in a nicer winter potentially could last more than a year.
And it was just financing the reasons why you're doing the painting as opposed to the thermoplastic, or is it just a time? Is there a specific reason why we're doing paint instead of the other alternative?
The department sort of changed over and started to go more to thermoplastic about 5 years ago, principally on the thought that it was going to last longer. In southern climates, it's guaranteed for 5 years. However, what we are finding is that due to the frequency of plowing, that it frankly doesn't last. It would last that long were we not scraping big pieces of metal back and forth over it routinely all throughout the winter. But because we do that, and because we are in the Northeast and do that, it's not lasting nearly that long, and it's more expensive up front. So we're actually currently debating whether it's worth continuing to go that route, or do you just resign yourself to the fact that you're going to paint annually and use paint, because either one is getting scraped off and having to be addressed, if not annually, semi-annually.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, I thank you so much for joining us here on Barnstable this morning and giving us the rundown on all of those road projects. And we will talk with you again sometime soon. Have a great day, and thank you so much for filling in.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks,
Look forward
Rob.
to talking in the future.
All right. Bye-bye. Rob Steen, of course, our Assistant Director of Public Works, filling in for our Director of Public Works, Dan Santos, joining us for our